Okay, I needed to turn on the creepy robot voice so I could record this Zoom session. After the after this hour and a half or a little less, I'll post a link to this video clip on probably on here. So, okay. So, for example, the system of grading, I grade on a scale, not a curve. In other words, I have you compete against the textbook rather than against each other. I think that's just more appropriate. I don't really like competitive grading because it's all about winning and losing, and that's not rather than learning. So grading on a scale, you versus the textbook versus you versus each other. This is to encourage co-study, and I do recommend it. There may be some difficulties given the ongoing pandemic, but I'm sure you can contact each other via discussion or some other things. The scale will be like this. I will have you. I'll give something downloadable for you to look at this in detail. But basically, from 0 to 25% is an F for a given homework or quiz or the whole course. Up to D then is 42%, up to C is 67%, from there to 92% is a B, and from there up to 100 and above, because you can get more than 100%, is an A. It's based on the homework mostly, some on the quizzes, a little bit on the final, generally enough to move you from one grade to the next, and extra credit problems and sets. I recommend this. Okay. Oh, I'm being interrupted by a cat. Okay, each homework set covers a chapter and is due on the third section, third or second, whatever, generally the next week after the chapter is done. Get out of here, cat. Each quiz covers several chapters. It's due on the fourth section after those chapters are done. All right, each extra credit set covers independent material and is due by the semester's end. Please don't abuse this. I've had people hand in a huge pile of homeworks at the very, 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 very last minute, and guess what? It doesn't work. You don't solve things by heroic last-minute effort. You learn this sort of stuff by continuous application over a semester. I'll get back to that later. The final covers all chapters and is due by the semester's end. Any homework, quizzes, final, extra credit, and so on, scan it, preferably PDF, and JPG is adequate. Attach the scan to an email and hand it in via the Canvas inbox. I will reply by the same route. I will generally give you what your score was and therefore what your grade was for that particular problem set. Okay, this Canvas site contains a home page, course information, you've seen it. Modules, which we'll be basically going over. We'll have the syllabus, homework sets, quizzes, extra credits, finals, lecture notes, and links to Zoom lectures. There are discussions forums for you to use. There's an inbox for you to contact me and for me to contact you, and a Zoom link to attend lectures. This Canvas site is the Canvas site is asynchronous. You can access it at any time. Zoom lectures are synchronous. What we're doing now, it has specific times and places. All right, I have some pro tips for you. The main pro tip is that you have to understand that any given system of education doesn't just teach, in this case, trigonometry. It also teaches how to relate to people, how to relate via that present system of instruction. For example, back in the old days, in the 19th century or some such, the main thing that teaches the schools were teaching was how to get all of these big husky farm boys to sit in one seat for hours at a time. This is because the employment system at the time required that of people. Same here. One of the main actual functions of this online course is for you to learn how to cope with online work, because that's the economy right now. It's how you do things. You go online, and so yeah, there's just lots of little bits of practice and practice and etiquette. I will insist there's a certain amount of online etiquette I will insist on just to make my work possible. So that's a pro tip, basically learning how to survive an online course. Also, each homework is a whole chapter at a time, not a section at a time. So I will require you to, for your homework for chapter 1, to cover 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, 1-5, 1-6, 1, and 1-7, not just 1-1 one day and 1-2 the next day and so on. I usually require only you give me answers to the questions, not the work itself. There are some exceptions, namely for deriving identities. Prove such and such as an identity. There's a whole procedure for doing that. Now we'll acquaint you with it. Hand it in via the Canvas inbox, not my Canvas email where it might get lost. When you write your answers down on a piece of paper, circle the answer or highlight, or really highlight, because legibility counts. This is very much an online survival tape. Okay, write it in such a way that I can easily grade it. This is the work I'm doing. I'm doing my work. Please do your part of the work to make my work easier. There's also a question of time management. I recommend that you make this a habit, a regular habit. Keep regular study times. 1 p.m. is a lot better than 1 a.m. Although you're tempted to try and do some genius work at the last minute, doesn't work. Keep pace with the course. Last minute homework books don't work. And I do strongly recommend that you get a calculator. This graphing calculator, it costs like 120 bucks. A simple 4-function machine, or it will cost you like 20 or 30 bucks. I recommend getting one with sine, cosine, tangent, arctangent, sine, and arc cosine, because it's just easier to push a button than it is to look it up in a table. Then there's a question of work rates. This course will cover 28 sections from the textbook, and this will include this introductory lecture. So therefore and it'll take about 30 meetings to do so. Therefore will be about 1 section per meeting with some review sessions. All right, as you can see here, I have a video here. These I'll link to Google Drive with some with lectures from previous years, and I shall be putting this lecture here after we're done today. All right, so that's this one. Now, okay, navigating in the module section, you can go back to the modules like this, and then go on to the next and the next and the next, or from within a module, you can go down to where the button says next, like this. So here we go. Module 0, meet your instructor. This is a little bit superfluous. Here's a picture of me again. All right. There's my name, Nathaniel Hellerstein. Pleased to meet you. There's my email. We can send, that's the campus email, or as I say, I prefer the inbox. There's a phone number to leave a message on. Classes are Tuesdays, Thursdays, 9:30 to 11 a.m. Class hours will be right after this, noon to 1 p.m. I'll be just sitting here and you're getting your, and talking about whatever questions you have. And here's the textbook I've already shown you before. All right, next. This is course policies. Same information, same information. This will be graded on a homework, extra credits, sets, quizzes, and final. These will be available in the modules. Hand in your work by handing it into the inbox. I'll grade on a scale, not a curve. Curve is you versus each other. A scale is you versus the textbook. The scale is as follows, as mentioned before. Modules link here will give you videos and class notes and assigned problem sets, discussions to talk with each other, City Zoom to join the lectures, inbox to hand in homework, or to contact me. These topics are being covered. If you need support for online learning, I completely understand. Like I say, there's always a learning curve in dealing with a new technology. Believe me, I had to learn it. There's Canvas support. Here's a helpline at this phone number. You can click on, appears to be some kind of question mark. Well, I'm not sure. Right. And there's Canvas guides and so on. Tutoring, there's a learning assistance center gives tutoring. There's a net tutor apparently. And then here's the online tutoring available at this link. There's a virtual campus and tips for succeeding. So I hope these are helpful. Right. Here is a downloadable syllabus. Okay, this is what I used to hand out first day of class in physical pieces of paper. I'm continuing to and handing this out to you virtually because of tradition and habit. So it covers all pretty much the same stuff as before. The scale. Here's something called student learning outcomes, which I've always put on the back of the syllabus, and which nobody reads because we're supposed to do, we're obliged to do this for the administration or whatever. Okay, to get this, you can click on this, download syllabus 2 at docs, 14 kilobytes, and it will give you, it should give you a, what should Firefox do? Open with Word, and you can do that. This is the syllabus. Next after that is a homework set. As soon as it decides to show up. There we go. Right. Homework syllabus. There's about 6 or so problems per section. And here's 7 sections here, 6 sections here, 7, 4 and a half, 4, 5, 7 homework sets. Now, I'm wondering, there's a couple of curious things about all these numbers here. What do you figure they are? I just noticed 2 curious things about these numbers. Someone care to chime in and mention what these curious things might be?
Maybe the questions that we have to answer?
Yeah, the other question you have to answer. Well, some of them. Okay, first of all, some of them have stars next to them. They're extra credit. You don't have to answer that, but I recommend you do so just to give yourself a little leeway, a cushion space. So yeah, so there's ones with asterisks here. These are basically, there's about 1 extra credit set per section generally. Or there are a couple of sections, 4, 2, 5, 5, 2, 5, 6, 5, 7, 4, 5, and 1, 5 that are themselves entirely extra credit. I generally tend to to skip those generally in the lectures, but they're there for you to know. And again, to give you a little bit of leeway in case you need it. And to download this and print it out, again, click download there, and Firefox will ask you if Word's available, and if it is, whoops, here it is. You can print that out. Was a satirical issue, the article I wrote once. Never mind that. All right, so there's that, and let's see. Let's go back to the modules. Right, so we covered this, and this. The rest of this, well, most of the rest of this consists of lecture notes for future lectures, which we'll go over there. Chapter 1, chapter 2. Here's quiz 1. You'll note that it doesn't have this green arrow check mark. It's not published yet. As soon as we finish chapter 2, I'll click this, and then you can see this right here. There's 1, and here are the problems, and I will get back to that later. And again, you can download those and print them out. Chapter 3, chapter 4, quiz 2, again, not yet published. Chapter 5, the final not yet published, and also a bunch of extra credit sets. So these are independent extra credits, 10 them in at any time. Again, preferably not at the very last moment, please. But so this would be here's a binary volume scale, for example. 2 gills in a cup, 2 cups in a pint, 2 pints in a quart, 2 quarts in a puddle, 2 puddles in a gallon, 2 gallons in a peck, 2 pecks in a demi-bushel, 2 demi-bushels in a firkin, 2 firkins in a kilburkin, 2 kilburkins in a barrel, 2 barrels in a hogshead, 2 hogsheads in a pipe, and 2 pipes in a ton. These sound comical, but they're the genuine article. These are British measuring units. I find these names to be charming. Demi-bushel, firkin, kilburkin, whatever. I got these from a drinking song, and yes, this was indeed from a drinking song. And from these involve basically powers of 2. How many gills in a ton? Well, I mean, okay, let's say how many gills in a bottle? Gills to cup, 1, to pint, 2, to quart, 3, to puddle, 4. That's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 2 to the 4th power. That's 16. 16 gills in a puddle. How many demi-bushels in a ton? Okay. Firkin, kilburkin, barrel, hogshead, pipe, ton. That's 2 to the 6th power. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. 64 demi-bushels in a ton. So, okay. So here are 7 questions. How many gills in a ton, pints in a quart, puddles in a peck, demi-bushels in a barrel, firkins in a pipe, gallons in a kilburkin, and cups in a hogshead. Well, those will all be some power of 2, which I want you to multiply out in full. And these are therefore worth 7 points extra credit, and you can download them here. So There's that. And there are various others. Metric time, Pythagorean triples, one here about adding cosines and sine, one here about arc trigonometry, some trigonometry problems here, and a trigonometry rule here, something about complex numbers. These are about multiples of 15 degrees, and this is a theory thing. Okay, so there's all that. Let me just look at the chat. Yeah, the problems, Santel, yes, the problems are all from the book. Fulgham, yes, a TI-83 calculus will be fine. All right, we proceed. Let's see. Well, let's go back up. Well, okay, I've done what is the usual, the norm for the first day of class, basically to tell you how this thing works. I will, however, take a glance at our first section, which we will go in more detail on Thursday, so I hope to see you then. So the first section is about distance and midpoint. We start off with the concept of the Cartesian plane, and the coordinates of a point on the plane are given by x by y. Given 2 points with their coordinates, what's the distance between them? What's the coordinates of the midpoint? Here's a formula for the midpoint. Its coordinates are average of the x and y coordinates. Pythagorean theorem is a classic from ancient Greece, actually probably a lot older. We have a right angle triangle, and a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Oh my, a lot depends on that. Okay, here's a illustration of why this should be so. I'll say more about that next time. So the distance formula derives from the Pythagorean theorem. So distance is the square root of sum of squares of differences. So I give an example here. And all right, and here I do some examples. Odd numbered problems. Oh, I forgot to mention, why do I have only even numbered problems assigned to you? Why no odd numbered problems? Anyone care to give a venture why?
Because you do the odds in class.
Yes, I do. Why do I do the odds in class and not the evens?
The answers are in the textbook.
Yeah, odd number problems have answers in the back of the book. And so since, and yes, I know all the answers to these problems. After all, I have a whole written up answer keys to all of them. So it's, I mean, I know the answers, but the game is that I'm supposed to wait for you to tell me the answers. I admit it's passive aggressive, but that's education for you. Now, all right, these are even odd number problems, but they're odd number problems from an obsolete textbook, so they're not really valid or whatever. But I mean, they're valid and it's illustrating what we're discussing, but they're not really related to the problems that you'll be seeing. Or probably won't be. So, okay, distance between points, midpoint between points, how far, what points are a certain distance, what's the midpoint, given a midpoint and a point, what's the other point? Is a triangle right angle, an isosceles triangle? What's the distance from home plate to second base? Prove that a given triangle is a right triangle. What's its area? And again, after tomorrow, I'll be covering the material. After tomorrow's lecture, I will post a link to the lecture here in the video section. Okay, I think that's that should be enough for now. Okay, all right then. Questions, comments, requests, and suggestions,
I have a question.
please.
So the entire chapter of homework, would that be due at the end of the week?
It will be due on the second or third class after we finish the chapter.
Got it. Thank you.
Oh, and one thing I forgot. Yes, I forgot to mention this bad boy. Back in the before times when we were actually meeting in the flesh, I'd use it to announce the beginning of class and the end of class. And a third purpose was something originally was intended aggressively, but it backfired. I wanted to honk anyone who made a stupid mistake in class. Now, that turned out usually to be me. You know, I'd be standing in someone's front of the class and lecturing on, and someone would raise a hand and say, Mr. Hellerstein, isn't 2 + 2 = 4 and not 5? Whoops, what did I do? I'll turn to stare at the blackboard. there was my stupid mistake, glaringly obvious. And so I felt myself honor bound to commit hornikiri. And it's been that way ever since. I use this horn as a way to keep myself honest, as a way to keep you alert, so as to be so as to be get a chance to humiliate me, and good clean fun, and also as a way to prove to you that if someone who's fallible, such as myself, can do it, then maybe you can as well. Okay, more questions, more requests, more comments, more suggestions.
How do you turn in the homework again? I was busy trying to connect my.
Okay, let's look at this. Share screen. Click here, right here. See this? The inbox box. Basically, if scan your homeworks, attach it as preferably a PDF. A JPG is acceptable, though I don't think as good. Attach said scan to an email, and that you send into the inbox, and I will respond via the same inbox. Is that clear?
Yeah, thank you.
Good. All right, more. All right. Well, all right. When I ask any questions and there's silence, I'm forced to conclude that you either know everything or nothing, and therefore there's not much more for me to say. So, all right. All right. This has been about 40 minutes. This is generally how long we generally actually work these classes, unless there's discussion and so on. So I believe this is I believe we're done for now. So let me stop recording.